Going into 2025 and probably into 2026, there's 15 insurance trends that you need to be aware of. Let's start with the more serious ones. The first one is climate change. We're not going to dive too far into this. Probably half my videos talk about climate change, and prices are going up because of it. If you're in California, if you're in Florida, if you're in Texas, if you're in any of the Carolinas, if you're anywhere near a coast, you're finding that home insurance is near impossible. Auto insurance is also difficult but doable, and it's hard to combine them. We've got policies in Texas that we write all the time, and we're noticing that we can't write the homes because they just don't want home insurance, or it's $7,000+ a year and nobody wants to pay it. They're also offering policies where you can exclude the roof, or wind and hail as they call it. So essentially, if you have any wind and hail claim, there's no coverage. You have to buy that separately from companies that offer just wind and hail, and it's cheaper that way. Kind of a pain, but in our world, it's actually not that bad because we don't do the wind and hail part. We do the non-wind and hail, so we're really not on the hook for anything bad. It's not something we want to do. It's just part of the way the industry has gone. California, they're trying to rebuild. State Farm, Allstate, Farmers, I believe a couple of Travelers, Mercury, those are all major companies that insure the California. And I think 30 some odd percent was State Farm. So you're going to see some rate increases there, which is beneficial for anyone selling home and auto insurance because they're going to start shopping. It's not just the state of California, it's all of those states we mentioned are going to cause other states to kind of pay for some of the claims to even out the cost difference. What that's going to do is that's going to create people looking for better policies, and that's where you come into play. In general, that's going to cause the rates to go up. It leads us to the second part, which is impact from climate change. And when climate changes, that's essentially what we just talked about. Wildfires, floods in places they shouldn't be, like Texas, snowing in Florida. Right now, actually, the making of this video, the warmest spot in the entire United States is 60 degrees. That's crazy. So things like that have happened, and those aren't necessarily planned beyond a certain measure. So when that happens, that's going to cause a lot of changes. Here's the thing, we're starting to predict that. And because we're able to predict that, we're starting to realize that, okay, that's a risk that insurance companies want to take on, and they understand that as well. So the prices will go up, but they're going to stay at a level spot to where we're not going to see all of these 30, 40+% increases with the companies that have already had those increases. Which is exactly the third piece, which is my favorite piece, is we're going to see stabilization. The market, the price of home and auto insurance is going to stabilize. Now, I can't say anything about health and life right now. They're kind of losing a lot of stuff. Medications are changing, the new laws are changing, bills are being re-signed. There's a lot happening there. So that's a different industry, different issue. But for home and auto insurance, you're going to see the policies level off. We, last year, had to go through a whole bunch of renewals telling customers, I understand it, I get it. Even when I reshop you, there's nothing better. I get 30% increase. I had $1,000 this year and I just kind of had to eat it. Yeah, I can save a couple $100 here. We can move this and that. But at the end of the day, do you want to lose coverage? Do you want that type of company? Like, we offer that, like that's an option. But if you want to be careful for the people that want to insure themselves properly, they're not going to switch for a few $100s. It's not worth the time to chance it with someone else that might just raise the rate a year later, which probably will happen. That's why they're all leveling off to where they should have been to who's competitive with what scenario. Now, number 4, I think, I don't want to say it's a joke. It's going this way. We don't have control. Number 4 is the technology advancement. It's essentially cybersecurity. Cybersecurity has been the word for the last 2 years, 3 years going, and is going into 2025 being a big word for people. I'm probably never going to join it. It's not really the niche I want to. Adding more onto your plate, we specialize in home and auto insurance, so we're really good there. We do commercial, we do a lot of trucking. We've kind of expanded even beyond what we're normally good at, and we're really good at the other ones. But now adding, if I were to add life insurance and health insurance and cybersecurity, essentially we'd have to have different departments. And we probably will down the road, but for right now, focus on a niche, focus on something you're good at, which is P&C for us. Home, auto, trucking, commercial, all of that type of stuff, that's where we want to shine. Adding cybersecurity is a benefit, and we have access to it. We can go through it, we can quote it. There's not much to learn about it. There are classes and schools that you can go to for it, but it's more assessing risk. Do you have the right things in place to stop cybersecurity? Are you protected if someone writes the false check because someone tricked you into writing a check with a PO number? All of those pieces are becoming a big issue because people are falling for them, especially with AI and the way that it words things and it can actually trick you into things. Now there's voice AI that can mimic voices. And so there's all of these things that are happening that lead to the obvious answer, which is cybersecurity. That alone will be the faster growing market going forward. Some of you might be wondering how I talk so fast, and it's energy drinks. This actually isn't mine. If you're watching this, Brian, I'm sorry, I stole it out of your fridge. I ran out of, my kids keep drinking my energy drink, so I'm stealing other people's. Anyways, the fifth one is what ChatGPT would call a positive outlook, amid, whatever, right? So essentially there is a huge positive outlook in 2025. I've already got proof that it's happening. We've unlocked some carriers that were locked before. There's a little bit of changes with the way the market is and the way they want to market. So there's another video we may talk about the different companies trying to upgrade the type of policies they're writing. But in general, the outlook of insurance in 2025 for PNC is growing and is getting better. I fully expect in the middle of 2025, second quarter, or maybe even sooner with some companies, most of the markets are going to start to open back up. Now, that doesn't mean that new people joining the industry are necessarily going to get in the door. It's still going to be very tight on the type of people, the type of risk, the training that you've had behind your license. So if you're new to licensing, you're still going to have that struggle. Honestly, here's what I would do. I think it's still worth trying it on your own. So contact some carriers. I've got some videos you can check on the channel that goes over how to get a license, how to get connected with carriers, how to make your 6 figures, all of those things. If that isn't feasible, or if it's not the way you want to go and you're like, I just understand that there's a lot more than just getting licensed and writing customers, and you want to work with a company like ours, I'll put a wait list that we're creating so that if you want to work with us, we'll actually reach out and kind of understand if it's a fit for you as well. If you're like, you know what, I just want to go on my own, I want to grow, but I don't have access to carriers, I'll also on that wait list put a link to the company that we're with. So we partnered with a carrier or a management company that gives you access to carriers. Depending on the state, obviously you still have to file and get approved and all those things, but it's easier when you have a company that has $200 million behind you than as if you just coming to the door and saying, hey, can I sell some insurance for you? Essentially, that's in the description below if you are interested. Okay, so instead of just saying that the positive outlook and yes, carriers are changing, I've also gotten some feedback and some articles that I've read where most companies are having record years. If you look at companies like Liberty Mutual, we may talk how they're losing a lot of money, they're having issues, they're raising their rates, but they had one of the most profitable years last year, flat out. They've lost a lot of customers, but because of the type of client that wants to stay with them, they're growing in general as far as the book growth. The amount of money pulling in is more. Same thing happened with multiple companies. Chubb, I believe Travelers, I believe most of the carriers, Safeco, Geico, all of these companies are showing large profits from the previous 2024. Going into 2025, they're going to allocate some of that back to product stabilization, also marketing. So you may have some marketing budgets. We sometimes work with companies like Safeco or Progressive or whoever, and they'll allow you to do a certain marketing plan and they may fund some of it, right? That's my goal for 2025 is to try to get some marketing going a little bit beyond more of the YouTube. Most of ours is just free marketing. And we literally sell our entire book off of just educating people. Having those extra pieces on play may be a benefit for those that are trying to grow. Number 6 trend that you're going to see going into 2025 is UBI, usage-based insurance. And that's pay per mile, essentially. There's companies like Nationwide. They offer a usage-based, they call it Smart Ride, Smart Miles. They call it Smart Miles. And you pay a lower fee, so you pay a less cost, and then they change every month. So if you drive a lot of miles, you pay a little bit more. If you drive low miles, you pay a little bit less. It's like 4 or 5 cents a mile. It's essentially like leasing a vehicle, but now you're just paying for insurance based on that. That's going to be something going forward because imagine the baby boomers are the largest population. I'm pretty sure they still are. Hopefully they are. They're retiring. They're all, their average is 60 some odd years old. Some of them are passing away. So insurance is changing based on that movement. If you look at the hospitals, there's tons of them. There's way more busyness because of the baby boomers going into that. Well, now that they're driving less, they want to pay less. And the only way to do that is to do usage-based insurance. That's going to be a benefit that will change the way that we write insurance for the older community. Number 7, I think we're on, is blockchain. We're going to see crypto start to inject into the market. We watched President Trump talk about crypto is going to be the US and we're going to be major, and now you got the Trump coin, and there's going to probably be some sort of US coin. Maybe it'll be the Trump coin. Insurance companies will start to adopt and start to accept some sorts of currency. I've got some companies that accept PayPal for payments. So it's weird that we can't accept Discover with some companies, but you can pay. Anyways, there's going to be more methods, and because a lot of people are investing into crypto, that may become something that will start to peek its head out. I think it's still going to be like 3 to 5 years before that actually is a thing, to where you have the drop down and it says crypto with most of the carriers. But in general, we're going to notice that the digital currency may become a norm for purchasing insurance. Number 8 is something that I've seen personally, not through myself. I've seen it through carriers, but I actually have some family members that work at some major companies, and they're in departments that are focusing on retention, on risks that are fraud. So they're trying to avoid this. And what we're going to start to see is these carriers are starting to pay companies to get AI built in, not for customer retention, not for service or focus. They want to determine the fraud risk that's happening in their company. You'd actually be shocked at how some of these very, very large companies don't focus on the fraud portion, and they're losing tens of millions of dollars every single year. Because we're tightening up, because they're focusing on the customers, because they're worried about what just happened the last 3-4 years, they're going to focus on preventing fraud, and that's going to be a major piece. Because of that, AI will kick in and start to help. We've seen companies like Lemonade come out and start to control some of the market because they actually have one of the, probably the newest or first to do the AI with the fraud detection and all that, and they pay claims within 5 minutes. So there's like the positives to it. But in general, we're going to see companies start to create their own to compete with things like that. Number 8 or 9, we're on something. We're on 12. I don't know. We're on a number. Whatever number we're on is digital insurance. We're starting to see technology move into virtual, and because virtual is a thing and you can get your virtual items stolen, you might have these old games that you see, they're $1,000, $3,000, $10,000 skins for characters that they don't make anymore, and somebody might want to purchase that. Well, there's scammers out there and there's ways to hack and there's all of these things. That's not usually part of a cybersecurity policy, although I'm pretty sure there's some sort of mix in there. But in general, they're going to have some sort of insurance based on that. Kind of starting again, we're just seeing those little trends where it's going to trend into what is the digital protection. Are we protecting digital wallets? Are we protecting digital characters? Are we protecting your VR in the space of the, are we protecting your virtual identity? Things like that are going to become an issue as we become more virtually based with different companies as well as our personal lives. Number 13, as we're going to go to 18 now, guys. Number 13 is the InsurTech adoption. We're going to see InsurTech companies. What is an InsurTech company? An InsurTech company is basically a startup. It's a company that is technology based that enters a market. In our case, they sell insurance, but they're not really insurance known. They hire someone that does insurance, they hire a management team, they sell different digital products that help you quote insurance or find insurance or do better with mapping things or the AI retention or fraud department. So all of these InsurTech companies are going after different scenarios, and I've personally seen it. I've seen some InsurTech companies come in this space, they crush it. The problem that they're running into is because they don't have the insurance knowledge, they don't understand the management of what insurance policies should look like, they're quickly hitting a wall to where insurance companies don't want to work with them. So as they learn that and other InsurTech companies come in behind them, they don't have all the arrows in their back, so they understand and learn from the mistakes that they saw their competitor have, and they're going to start to control a little bit more of the market. Partially why a lot of people are trying to join our agency is because we're focused on a lot of the technology. Even though we're more focused on the one-to-one contact, we want to make sure the customers are happy, they're safe, and understand the policies that they're purchasing. But it's going to become where they don't need us as much as our AI bot. We have an AI voice bot. We have all of the AI pieces that we're putting into place. And once we've built it fully out, there's probably going to be a lot more people that join because of AI, as long as we can fix those issues where they're not necessarily just buying the cheapest thing possible. That's still available for people that want that. But in most cases, if you're focusing on a typical client, they may have a home and 2 cars, and that type of client is the one you're focusing on. You can build the technology around that. So you're going to see some of these InsurTechs start to enter the market a little bit more than they have in the past. Number 14, we talked about it already, is virtual. You're going to see the metaverse start to become insurance. You're going to have your first insurance agent in the metaverse. I assume is going to happen somewhere. I'm guessing State Farm is going to make it. I don't know who's going to make it. Someone's going to have a virtual agent that's paid way too much to sit in the universe of AI in a little shop that's fake, and they have the goggles on, right? And so it's going to happen. For those that want to live in the AI space or live in the virtual world, that's going to end up happening. Now, that's probably not going to be where I'm going to be focused on. Honestly, I think that's going to be someone or some couples or groups or a large amount of insurance agents are going to crush it there. They're going to get a ton of business, but there's way more business to be had fighting out here than there is in there. That's why that's going to benefit a lot of people that are going to be overpaid, but it's also a space you have to relearn. But more importantly, what do you think are going to be the next trends in 2025 going into 2026? Do we think that AI is going to play a larger factor than we're even alluding to here? Or do we think that there's going to be some pieces that we're missing that we're just not aware of? Do we think there's going to be more disasters? What is your thoughts on the trends for 2025 going forward? If you are interested in building an agency or growing growth, I've got a video here that will be helpful and useful. If you're just kind of curious how much an insurance agent makes and how quickly, this video will be good as well. I'm Mark W. Flockhart. I'll see you soon.